Let's play a game. What are games? What are games? Games. I miss games. Oof. They never weak. What? What are we doing?
I'm here.
How are you going? Oh, we got a wolf ranger lady, haven't we?
Ready, Watcher.
Now, which yeah, hunter ranger. See what she's like compared to the other guy.
I'm here.
Takes like the whole battle to 7 skeletons. So, yeah. Oh my god, we're all fucked. We need a rest.
I'm here.
So this guy's evil, but I'm gonna leave him. We're heading to city. Welcome to Defiance Bay, but watch yourself in our city, understand?
Hail and well met.
What can I do for you? What can you tell me about Defiance Bay? Sorry, but I don't have time right now, but it sounds like that Dozen's crackpot Rowan is stirring up trouble again. He jerks his head at the gate, Rowan. He'd be all too happy to give you a rundown in the city, literally flavoured with Dozen's propaganda, of course. A group called the Dozens. I'm looking for the Temple of Wodica. Scratches his beard. Not sure why you'd want to go there, he shrugs. It's in First Fires if you really want to see it. You seem to be on edge, what's the problem? Thousands of them, truth be told. We've got refugees coming in from all parts under some misguided notion that things are actually better here. That the legacy somehow passed us over, so they show up with no prospects and little money, just end up making a worse mess of things. Looks you up and down. No offence. Goodbye, he went, and good luck to you. The expeditions out of Admeth's den are just organised grave robbery. Never far from the Queen. Find the leaden key in the City of Defiance. So, let's do a side quest first. Travel to the cliffs with her. Explore the dungeon under our keep. Keep travelling with Durans. Kill Lord Raedric. Kill Zola the Ogre Chieftain in the dungeon. And find more pieces of the ancient sword in the dungeon. So we can't progress further in there, it's too hard right now. There's loads of stuff in that dungeon. Go here for, yeah, maybe? Yeah. Let's go here first. Right here.
Defiance Bay, the city at the heart of the Deerwoods Revolution, now seems on the brink of another. Refugees line the streets, homeless and hungry, displaced by Whiteman's legacy, hoping for relief within the city walls, and finding none. Dissidents congregate to protest and to heckle, calling for an end to ennomancy and the ouster of their duke. The city's militiamen cast fearful looks as they patrol the streets, their hands trembling at the hilts of their weapons. The capital of a country that had not long ago incinerated a god now appears to be a spark away from sharing the deity's fate.
Widewood.
Used to be a lot less of a mess.
Protesters. These adamancers have brought divine wrath upon us all. And yet the Duke and his toadies in the Crucible Knights do nothing. Can we allow these atrocities to continue unchecked? No! Down with animancy! Whitewind's legacy was one morning, Heritage Hill was another. Heritage Hill? Spread the word! Together we'll drive the blight of animancy from our city! Oh, it's music, man. This is Rowan.
Good day to you.
What you doing, Rowan? Not behaving. Rowan's arms are crossed and his mouth is set in a grim frown as he watches the gathered protesters. He looks ready for a fight. He sizes you up. New in town, eh? You've picked an interesting time to visit Defiance Bay. All these refugees fleeing the frontier and finding the legacies no better here. See animancers, Magrins scorch 'em, and they nest in this city like rats. You mark my words though, us dozens are gonna put a stop to it. Tell me more about the dozens. He taps his chest. We're an organisation of interested citizens who want to free Defiance Bay from the dangerous influence of animancers and the tyranny of the aristocrats who support them. We also consider ourselves a militia of sorts, seeing as the Crucible Knights are little more than a flock of preening nobles in training these days. Ada, just like a militia, the dozens, except for the training, and the discipline, and the code of honour. Rowan's eyes gleam. And we're always looking to expand. The more people see things our way, the better for the state of the country. You have any interest in hearing more? Stop by Admus Den sometime, the expedition hall. Lot of free thinkers in there can set straight all the nonsense the nobles and the animancers want you to believe. Might even be some paid work there for motivated types. What are you doing out here? He gestures at the crowd, which buzzes with angry chatter. Trying to get Fog to see reason. We're in the midst of a crisis, and instead of purging the nefarious forces from our city, the Duke is granting animancers dangerous liberties. What do you know about animancy? It's a study in manipulation of essence, which any sane person will tell you is the purview of the gods. The Adrians at least had the sense to outlaw it, which is the only good thing you can say about them. It's not like magic, chanting, or the soul readings those ciphers do. It's been around since ancient Engwithan times, which is why you'll see animancers tinkering with old Engwithan artifacts. He shakes his head. Trouble is, the animancers got no idea what half those artifacts actually do. Not that they'll admit it. Aloth. Our emphatic friend is correct about one thing at least. What can you tell me about Defiance Bay? This is the capital of the Free Palatinate of the Deerwood. We started out as the capital of the Aderian colony, but we booted the Flaccid Scepter from these lands 150 years ago. Excuse me? These days we're a major port receiving trade and visitors from all over the world. But we, some of us anyway, strive to hold on to the pioneering spirit that earned us our freedom a century and a half ago. The city is divided into 5 districts: Copper Lane, First Fires, Ondra's Gift, Brackenbury, and Heritage Hill. Wow, he ticks each off on a calloused finger. Mentioned there's a problem at Heritage Hill. He shivers. Used to be one of those more prestigious districts in the city. Heroes of the Revolution claimed plots up there, next to an ancient Engwithan tower and the city cemetery. Had the best views in Defiance Bay. Attracts richer types these days. Lot of animancy patrons. He spits. He glances at the crowd and lowers his voice. You wouldn't have heard, but something happened over there a couple of months ago. The authorities sealed it off and they're keeping their mouths shut. But mark my words, animancy's to blame. Tell me about Copper Lane, where we are. This here is Copper Lane. He taps a scuffed boot on the cobblestones. It's primarily a market district, but you've also got the expedition hall directly north of here, where you can join treks into the wilds. That's also where my fellow dozens martyrs and I tend to meet up with the other concerned citizens. He points to a long domed building west and north of your position. And that's the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. Eerie place, you ask me, but they've got the biggest library in the Deerwood. Like an adventuring society up there. The expedition home. Tell me about the first fires. That's where the revolution started, hence the name. These days it's everyone with politicians and panderers, but we'll take it back someday. That's where you'll find the Ducal Palace, the Valian Embassy, and the Crucible Keep. He shakes his head. The Crucible Knights were the original freedom fighters in Defiance Bay, but now they're just strutting peacocks with their eyes on fancy titles and their heads up their arses. There's an old temple of Wodica there too. We keep it real nice for we keep it real nice for her. He winks. Tell me about Brackenbury. Noise of disgust rattles in his throat. The nobility that didn't sail back to Adir stayed there. Most of the families there traced their lineage back to the old imperial times. Other than a lot of has-been nobility, you've got Hadrit House, where Lady Webb and her spies operate, and Brackenbury Sanitarium, the main cesspit of animancy in the city. He spits on the cobblestones. You stop spitting everywhere, dude. Lady Webb and her spies. Tell me about the last quarter, Ondra's Gift. Got the name because it was a wetland. It was a wetland that was drained back in the Imperial days. Now it's a seedy district populated by sailors, common folk, and more than a few thugs. But it's a fun place too, if you know where to look. He winks and elbows you. Look for a place called the Salty Mast when you're there. Other than that, it's mostly warehouses and abandoned homes. I'll check it out. Farewell. Oh, it's just like music. I'm in love. Music, man. The Goose and Fox. Listen in. I'm gonna buy that soundtrack. Music track. Rishti Tungsten. Their memories. See a fire on the road. There's no wood for it to fuel it, so what's causing it? Begin to notice a figure in the flames. There's a boy curled up, knees to his chest, cowering in the flames. In the distance, a man approaches, faceless. Extends a hand to the frightened child. The child takes his hand, and the flames die down, leaving his limbs flames leave his limbs and settle down on his head. And his tears dry up, and they walk together. That's him. He's a fire element. Call them blood of a fire element or whatnot. What are they called again? When he was a kid.
Well,
Can't control the flames. Micarus Solomantine Memories. See a wizard playing illusions in the town square. Crowd of onlookers gasp and cheer. See a boy staring at the wizard, but he suddenly disappears into the crowd. The mage then finishes his show. Giant silver dragon descending through the crowd, an illusion, and then explodes into nothingness. Wizard collects coins, walking around the crowd clapping. Until a small sack is dropped into his hands, and the boy stands for a moment before him, small and still, and begs the wizard to apprentice him. The wizard glances at the bag, weighing it, and the boy carefully. Finally he nods and flicks gently at the bag, which disappears. The boy grins. "How do you do that?" he asks, but the illusionist merely winks. Is he the wizard or is he the kid? I think he's a wizard. The Vulture Memories. Guy's called the Vulture. What? Is he a hand, curled and bruised? A hand staked to the floor with a bent metal spike, and blood covers the floor. This man looks up from the body he is crouched over. To survey the carnage he caused to the family in whose house he now skulks. What the hell? 4 bodies, a woman, 2 young men, and a girl are blindfolded on the ground. What the fuck? Their legs are bound and both hands are attached to the floor with spikes. This man stands up and looks around, seemingly satisfied with his handiwork. He hears someone coming, conceals himself in the shadows, waiting for someone. It's like he heard his family or something. All the bodies are facing the door, welcoming the man back to the house. The door opens and this man slowly pulls another spike from his belt. The tip of his tongue playing across his teeth in anticipation. What the fuck? This dude seems evil. What innocent people though. save. Will everyone attack me if I murder this guy? No one's gonna be like, yeah, this guy's evil, right? Yeah, so I'll just murder him. Yeah? Yeah? He's gonna be pissed.
Yes. I'm here.
Right, yeah? One. Kill. Oh god, the whole tavern's attacking. But he was evil. He was evil. He was evil. They didn't know he's evil.
I shall.
Lupite Silvarum. Lupite's Memories. See an impressive gathering of wild Orlans in ceremonial dress. Under an ancient oak. Underneath the largest oak stand two young Orlans, hands clasped, eyes like getting married. An older Orlan steps towards them and speaks. This is in the old Orlan. He married them.
Hello.
Bishop, here for a drink? The man behind the bar is nearly the size of an Ormawa. A handle protrudes from his back and his face is set in a stoic frown. He gives you a small nod. There's a tiny pewter cup in front of him. He turns it in one broad hand but doesn't drink from it. Tell me about yourself. Name's Bishop. Used to be a scholar of Barath, but now I run the Goose and Fox and keep the regulars in line. He shifts and you see a warhammer strapped to his back. What more is there to tell? How'd you go from religion to taverns? The journey isn't as long as you'd think. Started with Hollowborn, and with this. Takes a black bottle from under the bar and fills the pewter cup. It was my sister's son. He takes a drink. At the beginning of the Wide Wind's legacy, he was one of the first. I never expected there would be so many after him. Tragedy is a part of the cycle, but it's followed by rebirth. Yet every year, more parents were grieving for their hollow-born children, and the gods were silent. You lost your faith. He leans forward, crossing his arms on the bar. Barath promises rebirth, cycles, but the only cycle I found was this one. He taps the bar. Have a drink, have another, and another until I couldn't remember how I got home. Wake up and come back. I finally woke up one day to see my family had packed up and left. For all I know, they'd left days before, and I just hadn't noticed. But they were gone, so I came here. I've cleaned up since then, not that I found any of my answers. Tosses the cup back. I've just stopped asking questions. Damn, dude. Place seems quite lively, though. It was founded in the early days of the Deerwooden independence by a travelling scholar named Errol of Levy. He wanted a place where kith of all backgrounds could gather and hash out the issues facing their new country. He rests his elbows on the polished wood of the bar. It didn't take long for the place to fill up. Brackenbury aristocrats argued with dockworkers from the gift, while soldiers wrangled with politicians. Dear Woodens had never known to turn down an argument. He takes a sip from the tiny cup. What happened next? Soon, kids were coming from the farms and the settlements too. He waves at the door as if expecting a crowd to bustle in. This place got even more popular with the alien sailors than the salty mast. And that was the problem. He drains his cup. No matter what people say about fair-mindedness and civil debate, there's only so much people will tolerate. Errol found himself on the wrong side of an argument with the wrong Thane, and when he disappeared a few days later, some said it was the work of that Thane. He shrugs, spreading his hands over the bar as he surveys the room. But Errol knew which way the wind was blowing. If you ask me, he skipped town, hid out somewhere, hoping for rational minds to prevail in Defiance Bay. He cracks a wry grin. If only he could see it now. Order some refreshments. Duke's own beef loaf. Extra damage. You can buy a pet dog from the inn. Yellow Labrador. What the hell? This small yellow dog seems singularly happy to accompany you, panting merrily as it lopes beside you. Come with me, little doggo. Boy. Fish and cheese. Chicken's good tanking food. Dex is good for our rogue. Attack speed. Beef loaf with 10% damage. God, stash. Can't hear. Weapons and no armor. The Zaribs, kobolds, and wearing the armor. Ooh, whoa, what? These rooms give different things, buffs. Better buffs in the other place. Plus 10 defense when what? When something and something. I'm like right click to expand or anything. What? When? That's all these things. When? Dot dot dot. When disengaging. Nah. Attack speed. Ranged accuracy. Do we need that? Suite of worldly wonders. Everyone gets increased attack speed. Ranged accuracy. Do we need a rest? Let's just do that now. Dexterity, 'cause that's good for everyone then. Attack speed for the 2 melee guys as well. Yeah. That's just good for the ranged characters, so. People want to chat. What's the other ones want to chat about?
The dozens. Pretty sure you won't find one among them who's stood within 100 miles of that bridge when the god came off. Too bad, too. Couldn't there be less of them?
Jesus. Why do they call themselves the dozens? Was 12 dear woodens stood outside Halgot Citadel waiting for Widewind to cross the bridge there. He had to hold him there long enough for the Godhammer to detonate. So that's what they did. Oh. What is the Godhammer? That's what they called the bomb they blew up Widewind with. Don't know much about it other than that. Anything kills a living god. Guess you gotta name it. What do you have against the dozens? Nothing serious. Nothing I don't have against a lot of folks anyway. The dozens, they like to take things into their own hands. Gets ugly sometimes. We don't have them in the Gilded Vale, but they'd be right at home there. They'd pick that name so they could do what they wanted and feel like it was right. Got nothing to do with honor or sacrifice. They like to invoke Magrin too, when they especially want to feel right. Somehow, I don't think she'd be too impressed with that lot. I'm sure she'd like to set him on fire anytime they use her name. But the gods probably got rules against that kind of thing. There must be plenty of other groups that are better reflections of the figures that inspired them. Sure, I just can't think of any off the top of my head. I shouldn't say that. There's a group of Ethosians, the night market. They still do right by their god. Helps get a lot of people to safety during the purges. They're easy to forget about though, because they have work to do in secret. Well, they have to work in secret. You can thank people like the dozens for that, too. Scanny draws up beside you, her fox following at her heels, and takes a seat next to you.
Even if you are putting one over on me, it's nice to have a hunting party again.
You've been searching for Persok for 5 years? Sounds like you've been gone from home a long time.
5 years for me. Must be 30-something for Ichima.
Wow. What an adventure.
It certainly started out that way. It's been a long hunt. A long time away from my family. Before, I'd crossed the tundra of Nasitok following caribou herds. I didn't want to leave Kalu and our children, but I was eager to visit lands my people rarely do. But 5 years without finding it. It's like 2 hours of necking. I'm ready to be done with it.
Why do you have to find Persok?
Soul recovery is an old village tradition. We call it the Tarnek Ilitsak. Once in a generation, we seek the soul of a much respected and long dead village elder. We tell him what's changed in the village, how people remember it. The only other Tarnek Ilitsak during my lifetime happened when I was a girl, not long after Persok died. We feasted on blubber and fermented milk for a week, and we honored the chosen huntress as a hero. Then she left, and we returned to our duties. We still sang her name to the skies during festival season, but we otherwise didn't speak of her.
I'm sure your village still remembers you, Sagani. You're kind to say so, but I'm not so fragile that I need my name chanted in the meeting halls.
It's not being forgotten by my village that troubles me. But sometimes I wonder how my husband and children remember me, if they think of me often.
Of course they do. They must. I would like to believe you, and yet sometimes days go by and I realize that they have not crossed my thoughts. Such days are rare, but they happen. She looks away, tugging at the strap of her quiver. Shames me to think of it, but more than that, it scares me.
Still, there's no point in dwelling on it. More often I find myself wondering whether Persok will remember us. You claim to see souls. What do you think? Do you remember your past lives?
Yes, but in fragments. She leans a hair's breadth closer. Really? What's that like? It's strange. Feels like I'm going crazy most of the time. She sits back. I don't envy you. Guess I'm lucky I only have to worry about someone else's past life.
Makes me wonder what Persok remembers about our village. Or if a turn at the wheel has yanked the details out of his mind like it does for most of us.
What would you tell him about your village?
Masuk is probably much the same as it was 100 years ago. We live between tundra and frozen forests, and the land takes as much as it gives. But our hardships bring us together. And the elders truly unite us. They keep the stories of past generations, and they guide us from season to season, through good years and lean.
Itumak brushes against her hip, and she scratches his head. Recently, there have been a lot of good years. My aunts say we've had fewer clashes with neighbouring villages, thanks to the hunting territories that Persok helped establish. In bad years, we rely on trade with the merchants that pass our shores. We exchange walrus tusks and seal pelts for grains that last us the hard winters. Persok brokered a lot of those agreements too. She holds up the bear figurine. He got this from one of the Omawa ships that used to trade with us. It's like Persok did a lot for your people.
That's what I'm supposed to remind him.
She shoves the Aedra bear back into her carabao skin pack. Sounds like you're on a hunt of your own though. You feeling the thrill of the chase, or ready for this to be over? too early to tell. She nods. Fair enough. She rises and stretches, looking around. Might as well keep moving while we've got some daylight. Want to talk some more? Tell me more about Itumak. She scratches behind his ear. Good hunter, but not much of a talker. And that's been fine by me. When we hunt in Nasitak, we almost always bring our foxes with us. They help us track and flush game, and they're fearless defenders against bears and snow leopards. Clever Itumak has always been my favourite. He wags his brushy tail. Do you have family back in your village? Of course, we'd never send a woman who hasn't had the chance to find a mate and have a couple of children of her own. Sure, children like? I've had 5. Yakona, Estuya, Najuo, Anik, and Malak. Estuya and Anik died young in long, lean winters. Malak was barely talking when I left. She scrapes a thumbnail along the handle of her hunting knife. He probably won't know me when I get home. She frowns, her hand falling from the knife. Even in Nasitak, I spend most of my time on the hunt. But then it's easy to relish the hunt when I know I'll see my family enjoying our kill. What's your husband like? Kalu's a good man. He raised our children well and built us a strong home while I've been away on hunts. Our parents chose us for one another when we were still young. Not the way things are usually done here, but ours chose well. She smiles. We came to appreciate each other as helpmates at first. Then friends, and then, well, you know how it goes. There's a hint of blush below the stripe of face paint. Aren't you worried about your husband? Are you kidding? I'm the best shot in Masuk. What do you do back in Nasitak? I'm a long hunter. I stalk game across the tundra with some of the other wives. We usually hunt caribou and oxen, but we find hares and birds too. It's a good and respected position to see so much of Nasitak in the company of my friends and sisters. This is one of the pleasures of life in Masuk. I like her. To know more about your homeland. Nasitak, she rubs her nose with one broad finger. It's a big island in the middle of the Deadfire Archipelago, just off the coast of the White that Wens. Tundra mostly, with a few snow-covered forests in the warmer parts. Most of us live in fairly small villages, by standards here anyway. Mine is Masuk. What's Nasitak like? She shrugs. Cold, but not as cold as the White that Wens. The few kith who visit Nasitak find it sparse, but there's plenty to sustain a village if you know where to look. She ticks the items off on her calloused fingers. We get hides and meat from caribou, seals and small whales. Bone too, which makes fine bows and arrowheads. Community is important to us. We survive or perish together, so everything we do, every week-long hunt, every wall we build, is for the village. Tell me more about Masuk. We're a tundra village. To an outsider's eyes, we're probably not much different from the others around us, but our elders have stories that go back hundreds of years. Epic hunts, battles with neighbouring villages, sojourns across the sea. We share these stories too. Who lives there? Mostly Enutinik, like me. People here call us boreal dwarves. Migratory clans of Glamfellan from the White that Wens sometimes spend the colder seasons on Nasitak, but we don't see too many other foreigners who can tolerate the elements. Frost dwarves in the icy mountains. He pats a weather-bronzed arm. Those of us born in Nasitak like to say we have a harder layer of sealskin just beneath our flesh. Remind me of Emilia a bit. The barbarians who live in the frozen we call it north. I'm curious about your search for Persok. I'll tell you what I can, but Tarnek Ilitsak pilgrimages like mine are rare. Why do your people have this tradition? She pulls the bear figurine out of her satchel, running her finger along its smooth back. It's something we've always done. The elders say it was first begun to forge ties with other villages. It's hard to fight over carabao herds when you see someone you respect on the other side. We also believe that passing our history on in this way keeps us stronger, and it helps them, the elders I mean, return to us after they've been away from us for a generation or more. They can use the experiences they've accumulated over lifetimes to lead the village again. Are elders usually reborn so far from the village? They're reborn somewhere else. They go to find them and remind them of their past life. Most often they return somewhere in Lassitak, a member of another village, or they were born among the Glamfellan of the White that Wends. Even so, it's hard to say that what's usual. A mischievous grin crinkles her eyes. When my grandfather was a boy, the elder came back as a polar bear. The huntress chosen for the task had to recite half of her village's deeds while running from the beast. Expression sabers. Even so, there have been journeys longer than mine. Some last decades, and the huntress doesn't always return. What happens when the elder is found? That depends on the man or woman he's become. It's easiest when the rebirth happens in another village of Nassitag, where the tradition is understood. Even in the White that Wends and the southern islands of the Deadfire Archipelago, people understand this custom and will welcome you politely enough, even if their souls do not remember. She shrugs, but sometimes you find someone whose soul has no memory of the village, and you have to tell them of people who remember him still. As disheartening as this is, you hope that the reminder will aid his soul in the future life. How did you get picked to come search for Persok? She grins. Another old village tradition. The elders watched the carabao migrations and cast seal bones to determine the right time for this journey. When the omens were determined, all the village wives drew shark teeth. We're the ones that go away to hunt and fish, so we're the best suited for the task like this. The women hunt and fish. What can men do? Anyway, I grabbed a little tooth. She frowns. Travelling so far is a rare privilege for us, but as you can see, the journey can be unpredictable. What are your thoughts on my search? She frowns. Well, it helps to know what you're hunting. You've got a lot of tracks to follow, but where they'll lead is anyone's guess. Let's move on.
Yes?
That miserable bastard. Excuse me? Hello? A woman sits by herself, spinning something on the table in the front of her, watching it with furious intensity. It's about the size of a coin, and it wobbles over a crack in the wood with a metallic rattle. She snatches it up with one hand and slams a half-empty cup down on the table with the other. This is not a good time. You look like you could use another drink. I'll get there. She takes a long drink from her glass. Just trying to calm down. I'm trying to talk myself out of something foolish. Something foolish? She says nothing for a few moments, as if hoping you'll leave. At last, Kienra looks up at you, and lamplight falls across her face. A purpling bruise is blossoming along her cheekbone. There's something I need to give to my fiancé, Pernisk. And he doesn't seem to go anywhere without his new friends, and they're not exactly pleasant company. Who hit you? She shakes her head. I know how this looks, but you don't understand. It's not like Pernisk. It's these new friends of his. They've brought out the worst in him. Tell me about these new friends. They come into our house with their dead eyes and their black teeth. I'm not a fool. I know what it means. Pernisk makes believe when they show up, but it's obvious what they come to do. Last time they came, I told them to get out. Let them have their fun somewhere in the gift, and not under my roof. The fuck? Beats him up, what? Huh? She scowls and then winces, her fingertips gently probing her bruise. Sveth changes you, I guess. The Pernisk I knew wouldn't have squashed a spider. I never thought he'd... She trails off, still feeling the swollen, discolored flesh. Oh, Sveth, it's that drug. But Sveth makes people calm and listless. You shouldn't make them violent. Kienra shrugs. I don't really know. Seemed better than believing he's always been this way. Maybe I could go talk to him. Her hand rests on the table. She clenches it into a white-knuckled fist. There's nothing more to say to him. We're finished. I just want to give this back to him and have a clean break. She opens her hand and a ring clatters onto the table. It was his grandmother's. Even after this, I don't have the heart to sell it off. If I go back there myself, I know what'll happen. I'll lose my temper, and I'll probably wind up with another one of these. She points to her bruise. I wouldn't normally hand this off to a stranger, but people say you've got a good heart. If you give this back to him, he'll know what we're done. People know who I am already, and I've got a good heart. Okay. I'll take the ring to Pernisk. She looks at you and nods. The house is just north of here. Just, please don't hurt him. As furious as I am, I don't want that on my conscience.
I'm here.
A dragon is outlined in charcoal pencil. The thick, jagged lines and the faint smell of sulphur suggest that the artist completed this sketch in a hurry. Cliff Dragon in the White March 2685. Stealing. No one hear them. Save.
What is it? I'll see it done. It's finished.
Bartender's ring. Plus 20% damage against spirits and undead. Plus 5 will. Whoa. Simple wooden ring glows when you're not wearing it. Sources agree that this ring was owned by Errol of Levy, the person the bartender was talking about. When he was in exile. Some say it was a gift from the gods, others say it was the boon of a pact he made with a wicked power. What happened to Errol?
Yes?
Nice and quiet.
Moving on, man. Wait, got a spare slot? Put it on the road. Roady McRoad. I forgot about the name, didn't I?
I'm here.
Brad Ferris. Into his memories. Mud, rain, the ground. This man is lying on his back in the mud, holding his hands holding open the maw of an enormous stelgear that stands over him. Stelgear. His front paws on his chest. And there are dead stelgear littered around them. His clothing is torn. Scraps. Bites and scratches cover his arms and legs. With a huge gash across his forehead. Blood and water mixing as they run down his face. It takes all the man's effort to keep the beast's jaws from clamping down. The man looks around until his gaze finally lands on a large axe lying barely within arm's reach behind his head. His arms are shaking and it seems he will no longer be able to hold the beast back for much longer. He takes a deep breath and wraps his right hand around the stelgear's bottom jaw. Then lets go with his left hand, freeing the top of its head. The stelgear's mouth snaps shut on his right hand as his left shoots out above his head and grabs the hand of his axe. What? Snaps shut on his right hand. The grunt that quickly becomes a bellow of pain. The man pulls his right hand down, swinging the axe around as he does. The blade pierces the stelgear's neck and it yelps. Before his mangled hand can loose its grip, the man pulls and twists as hard as he can, trying to get the beast on the ground, using the stelgear's resistance to pull himself into a sitting position. He brings the axe down on its neck again and again, and one final time as its head and his hand simultaneously come free. The head flies from his grip as he thrusts his hand behind his back to brace himself as he falls. As his hand hits the ground and his full weight lands on it, a second bellow of pain erupts from his mouth. Breathing heavily, he brings his now mangled hand up to assess the damage. The little finger is gone, lost somewhere in the mud. The two fingers next to it are twisted and broken and torn, barely attached to his hand by small bits of flesh. He sighs, grabbing both dangling fingers with his left hand. He grits his teeth and pulls. Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh. He survived though, man. That dude's a fighter, man. Dude, you wanna join my party? We got a sense. Just one look at you. That you're a beast,
Yes.
man. Brad.
I'm here.
Damn, dude. I like Brad. Painting of Glanfathen ruins. Ibrel's Well, the year 2665. Merchant.
Yes?
I like Brad. I want Brad in my party. I got a picture of Errol of Levy. Do we meet this Errol at some point? He's an important guy. Roy Ningwin. Memories. Drinking ale. There's a brawl across the room. There's a bar fight. He asks for another ale. He pulls a picture from his pocket, a painting of a young child. All brown hair and green eyes. Ales later, he begins to sing in the bar, a mess of broken chairs and wounded pride. He just keeps singing while everyone's fighting and drinking. He's the guy just sitting at the bar still while there's shit going on, like, still drinking, like, no, not enough fight. Everyone's drinking, smoking weeds, ref. He's singing sad song. Everyone else is sad. And silence and hangs in the air after his song finishes. Calms and ends up calming them down with his song. Starts singing and everyone else just stops fighting and singing. And then he orders a round of ale for the room to break the silence. And everyone's like just resuming normal conversation. He just sits there, drinking, singing, orders a drink for everyone after everyone's fought each other. Calm them down. So everyone goes to the pub to meet Roy. Pub's not the same without Roy. The books. The Culklin people. Who are those? Wow, so many people. Oh shit, I was reading today in the
I'm here.
memories.
Good day, stranger.
An Orland man relaxes with his feet propped on the table. Patches of dark brown skin peek out from under a full mane of blue-green hair. He and the Orland woman neck with him exchange laughs and comments with a trio at the table nearby. He spins a dagger in his hand. His hazel eyes watch you. You look like you've seen a night or two in the wilds. Will you join us for a drink? Who are all of you? The name's Two-Tone Weeksel. The lady next to me is Key. We've had our fun with the expeditions, but we were hoping to enjoy a little peace and quiet for the next few weeks anyway. Dreadshot Daedon. The man at the next table nods at you. I'm Dreadshot Daedon. This is Hurdy and Ilfa. We were part of a separate expedition team, but we both suffered losses and decided to band together. He takes several items off his fingers. Beasts, barbarians, beerwicks. It's a dangerous time to be an adventurer, but a prosperous one too. The table nearby, Daedon raises his glass, and here's to many more prosperous journeys. There's something else you wanted? They're like adventurers. The expedition yield. What's Chew? Drinking.
Of course.
You just got back from the Black Meadow. Is it Anslog's compass?
God's key.
Yes? I shall.
I'm gonna join that. It's like the Pathfinder Guild. Pathfinder.
I'm on the trail.
I'll see it done. It's finished.
Fruits and lockpicks. Wouldn't expect to find them together in my chest. Harold. See man standing on a dock, sailors and soldiers and prostitutes swarm around him, but he's watching the ship disappearing over the horizon. He should be glad his men didn't take his life along with his ship. But failure is almost as bad as death for Aurelian. Failed mission. He left him here. And the gods only know he hadn't fared any better in his family's mercantile business. It's almost a relief to see that last herald of his failure sail into the distance, sparing him the need to go back to his father and admit defeat once again. Besides, there's always a chance for a comeback. Pulls the flask from his hip and takes a long drink. There will be a time for that later. He adjusts the flap of his eye patch and finds the tower of the brothel. He plots a new course for the evening, a grin on his face. This guy.
Yes?
Yes?
Fail, new thing.
Well?
Okay. Shanna. There's a people standing on some ground surrounded by... oh no. Fuck, come on to... surrounded by several motionless bodies. On the ground there's a small figure curled up to protect itself from the kicking feet of people standing around it. What? This woman is there, apart from the group. Holding an enormous sword, she leans on it, using it almost like a crutch. Hunched over and breathing heavily. He stares at the people and grunts, pulling herself upright and lifting the sword from the ground. She starts to run towards the group, howling at them, and the mob freezes mid-kick, and stares at the terrifying ball of a woman now charging them. She jumps towards them. Everyone topples as she flies into them. She hits the ground beyond them, rolling, leaping back up, and turns to face them. Who's attacking who though? Like what? They're kicking them on the ground. She cuts down the nearest of the assailants. Then she kills someone else. She looks up, rage filled up with her rage in her eyes, daring the remaining two men to approach. After a quick sideways glance at each other, those two men run away. She walks over to help the figure still huddled on the ground. Protect someone. Who?
Hmm?
Guys, there's someone giving
What
out
is it?
free round of beer downstairs.
Yes?
Someone called Boar. The most unfortunate tale of Favia and Bernat, a Valian tragedy. I'm just gonna... give you some books. I'm not gonna read. I'm reading a lot today right now. So. Later. Bo Akaria. Scribing notes from an ancient tome. Being very precise. He's a monk. Transcribing the book. He understands what it says, and then he hurries to the exit of the room, notes under his arm, and a new adventure on his mind. Dash Oki. Oh my god, what is this? Man grinning and a younger woman. She moves closer in the tallow light, sure and slow, tasting the anticipation of it on his tongue, the desire on hers. Okay, this is the candle gutters sending yellow-brown light sneaking across his multifaceted eyes. She sits back, now all too aware of his luminescent horns and dust-stamped blue skin. His otherness leaves her breathless, but from fascination or horror you cannot tell. He reaches her across her hand, trailing the line of her jaw, sibilant whispers snaking through the air, tempting, cajoling. Something in her breaks, and his grin slides back as he extends his tongue to lick the curve of her throat, pausing a hair's breadth from her flesh. The man wags his forefinger at her, tusking playfully, tracing a line with the finger down the length of her torso, causing her to writhe. He stops it just short. She gasps. No fair, that's cheating. The man resumes his stroke. Oh my god. Like Lexcanium MacCreggy? These names. Man praying. Singing some ancient unknowable hymn. Sword in his hands. Blinding white light. Banishing the darkness around him instantly to lurking corners and shelves. Light spell. Like a priest. Praying. Moves slowly towards an enormous iron door with strange symbols inscribed upon it. His prayer gets louder and gains substance as he gets closer. sword glows. White light, his sword tip touches the door, and white light spreads across its surface, and the symbols on the door flaring into life as the paladin chants. The paladin. Sounds ringing through the ancient structure, and the door begins to open. The symbols disappear along with the rust, and the paladin steps through into places unknown, bearing a light he is only now beginning to understand. What the fuck's adventure are you on, dude?
Yes?
Come with me. Where's that guy going? I don't know where that was. Yeah, me do him. That's one building in the whole city. Explore. Oh my god. Be serious. An elf in front of this man. The elf says, "I'm mad, I've seen it." This man says, "Bullshit." You just said you only heard it. The elf blinks. What in the name of Galloway's beast does that have to do with anything? You're telling me it's a monster the size of 2 Ormara with blood-dyed fur? You're a liar, Duran. Duran sputters. Gods, be serious. Who cares what it looks like? It's a rabid wolf. You saw what it did to the sheep. You want to stay out here all night to see the thing yourself, Viserys? Have it your way, I'm getting out of here. The elf storms off. Down a hill. This man sets off in the other direction, a sword in his hand and a torch in the other. Within minutes he's within a broken paddock where a dozen sheep lie dead, their throats torn, and their innards scattered across the ground. It's not the work of a normal predator. Is he a monster hunter? It's a hunter. Something crunches through the dry grass. Rustling sounds behind him. He turns to see a wolf. It's not nearly as large as Duran had sworn, and while its fur is matted with red around its throat and paws, the rest of the elf's description has proven to be a rather lurid exaggeration. Typical. Viserys takes some small satisfaction in this, even while the dwarf lunges towards him. Psst, over here, mister. Hello? Gordy, a young boy, watches the passers-by and counts a grimy handful of coins. His face and arms are smudged with dirt, but except for the grass stains, his clothes are in good condition. As you approach, he blinks and makes a quick, furtive effort to pocket his coins. Well, you're not part of working for the Thieves Guild, are you, little guy? Hey, mister, want to know a secret? He wipes his nose with a sleeve. I know a real good secret. Sagani, careful, I've travelled the continent, and the hardest bargains still come from my 7-year-old. Really, what is it? He shrugs and clasps his hands behind his back, kicking a loose pebble. I just saw folks hiding some really neat things. I could show you where, but Mum and Dad told me not to talk to strangers. His eyes slowly roll up at you. But maybe you could help me with something. Then we wouldn't be strangers. Don't trust you, kid. Help you with what? Gordy's voice suddenly rises in pitch and tempo. The Crucible Knights have these daggers made out of March steel. It's the best steel around, except for Durgan steel, which doesn't count because no one makes it anymore. He stops long enough to catch his breath. Anyway, there's this merchant over by the expedition hall, and he has a dagger made of real March steel. His eyes grow large and round. He said he wouldn't sell it to me because I'm a kid, and kids don't know anything about daggers. But that's not true. I know lots about daggers. I know about the different kinds of steel. I know how the Crucible Knights make them in the forge. I know that the tip can pierce low-gauge scale armor, and that one that's good and sharp can cut through bone. See, I know plenty about daggers, and I really, really want this one. If you could just get it for me, I promise I'll never ever ask anyone for anything ever again. In Masuk, we begin training our daughters with the hunting knife as soon as they can talk. Many can field dress a hare before their 10th birthday. She frowns. But I wouldn't trust this kid with a butter knife. Might. I'm not letting him have a dagger. But I want to know about this loot. I'm gonna grab Gordy by the shirt and hold him above your head. How about you tell me that secret right now, boy? Before I get angry. Experience. Gordy bursts into tears, stuttering through this. Was that really necessary, Neil? One of the actors hit something in the loose stone near the theatre. Set him down and leave. See, that wasn't so hard. You set Gordy down and he turns away from you, hunching forward and trembling with sobs. Sorry boy, but no. Ah, damn it, man. Upset this kid. I don't want to do that now. Go back.
Sagani, does your fox bite?
Yes,
Can I pet him anyway?
it's your hand.
I'm gonna pet him.
Ada. Oh, Ada said something this time. I used to have a knife when I was his age. I don't know a better way to learn what you should and shouldn't stab. I say we give him a chance. Sounds reasonable. I'll get it for you. You get a kid a knife. He jumps up and down, whooping and hollering. I knew a real adventurer would understand. Points to a large building. There's a big merchant over by Admeth's den who sells weapons. He's the one with a dagger. I'll wait right here for you. Main keep. Stronghold. Shops. I had dagger then.
Good day to you.
Take your time, traveller. If you're looking for enchanted scrolls or garb, you've come to the right place. Are you selling a dagger made of march steel? You must be looking for Iguin. See that tall Mara over there? He sells weaponry. Ooh, there's some magic items. And usable by a priest. They get more spells. Ooh. Over here. 1,900. This ring is studded with 11 small beads, one for each of the gods. Telda's ring. What? It costs 14,000. Oh my god. Hills of Eternity notes. Seal of Faith. Laura Merchant. Copper Lane. Laura. Ring. Magical. Seal of Faith. What is it here? Seal of Faith. Costs 14,250. Shit. These spell slots. What else you got, lady? Telda's ring. Ring of wizardry. Plus 2 level 2 spells and plus 1 level 4. Oh my god. Powerful wizard made this ring. It's been a long time trying to find a way of being able to cast more spells per day, and finally did, and enchanted this ring with that spell. Telda. Elven Wizard of Adir. Telda's ring. $1,250 wizard spell slots.
Good day to you.
Deflection plus 9. Plus 9. Deflection. Good rings there. Scroll of Maelstrom, got a 10 lore. Scroll of Revival. Gives them back their vigor and all their. Ashwood cameo figurine. Summon Delemgan once per rest, 20 seconds. A Delemgan. This intricate piece has been created from one small piece of ashwood. Is this supposed to be a reference to Dark Souls? Carvings. I think it is. Reference to Dark Souls. 10,000 to summon some creature. Okay. Summon.
Hail, traveler.
What are these? Endurance potions? Whoa, 100 endurance. Whoa, reduce the duration of debuffs. There's of endurance regen every time. Iron skin, 8 damage reduction until hit. Recovery. Ooh, ingredients. Oh, it's also expensive though. Oh, some gems. Should I buy them all though? It's gonna cost a lot to buy them all. Can't afford them just now. Can we train a character here? Stuff I want to buy. Spell slot rings. Well met, traveller. Are you interested in purchasing any rations for your supplies for your journeys? Apologies, but I sell no weapons here. Any fruits, vegetables, and meat. Would you be interested in any of those? Dragon meat and dragon eggs? Whoa, dude, where the fuck do you get these? Dragon meat is considered a rare and exotic treat, for the fairly obvious reason that it's not very easy to obtain. Plus loads of might and resolve for 157. Turn it into some other food though. Cook it. Dragon eggs the size of a human torso. I think we'll buy all food. Igwin?
Good day to you.
Igwin stands behind a stool, polishing a broadsword. The patterned flesh around his eyes is crinkled with age, and the muscles in his arms are knotty and lean, but he holds the weapon with ease. He nods at you. Come to take a look? You won't find a finer collection of armor and weaponry in Defiance Bay, outside Sonil's, of course. He flashes a crooked grin. What's so special about Sonild? She operates in the expedition hall. He jerks a thumb over his shoulder. Sells the best equipment in the city. But Wenon keeps her on a short leash. Keeps her fine inventory reserved for chartered expeditionists, members of the dozens, and anyone else he takes a liking to. Looking for a particular dagger made of March steel. Just like the Crucible Knights use? Let me guess, you've been talking to that kid, right? He laughs and shakes his head. I'd be tempted to sell it to you anyways and let the little rascal learn his lesson. But a pack of adventurers already took it off my hands. If March steel daggers are only given to Crucible Knights, how did you get your hands on one? Igwin pauses mid-polish, his cloth slowing over the blade. A lot of steel passes through my hands, friend. I don't make it my business to ask where it all comes from. I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but you should be careful about what you trade, and whom you trade with. Trafficking in stolen goods is risky. He grunts. Appreciate the concern. There's no need to worry. Keep my nose clean enough. Those adventurers you sold the dagger to, where are they now? Folk like that only visit Copper Lane to crew up at Admeth's Den Expedition Hall, or or down a pint at the Goose and Fox. And since they weren't headed into the den, well, you've got my best guess. So it's back to those adventures we just met then. Tell me, tell me more about the dagger. He oils a cloth in his hand, made out of a high-purity iron ore that comes out of the White March Mountains. Traditionally, the smiths at the Crucible Keep have spelted it into daggers and swords, which they only give to the knights of the Crucible. Of course, I'd be surprised if that kid didn't already tell you all of this. He grins. What have you got? Unique items, a bow. Borisane. Attacks can stun on critical hits. What the hell? Dwarven... What? Wiles of... Well, this is like meant for her. Dwarves of Nassatak. Bow of the Dwarves of Nassatak. Damage restored his endurance. Wow. Life draining wrong. He select her. And then compare. Lady's hand, wizard scepter. Extra accuracy when health is low. Damage and accuracy. Two-handed pike, lost Thane's reach. Reduces enemy accuracy. One-handed warhammer. Armor, Pike's Pride, medium armor. Reduces knockdown and stun duration by half. Lowers the will saves. Cavalry speed? Minus 35%. The Dunwich Demon? Helmet plus 2 intellect. Influences duration and area of effect. Ooh. Do we want that? Done with demon. Like not many magical helmets in this game, I think. Rope and grappling hook. Another pry bar. Take them. The Dunwich Demon, 3000. I want it. Equin. The Dunwich Demon helmet. to eat. No, oh, no, Excel, no, to invent, to eat. Something about that armor. And that bow could be good in a scepter. Big bow. Scepter. Maybe. Name of the shop here. Hilda. You see a dimly lit room with extravagant decoration. Silk pillows, silk. Velvet covered divan. Oh my god, there's a man sitting on the divan. His shirt untucked and only halfway buttoned. Behind him stands this elf. This elf woman. Her hips gyrate gently, dancing slowly around the man. And she begins to sing. La la da. She takes his face in her hands, singing directly to him, running her hands down his shoulders and arms. Man is intoxicated but then falls asleep. She sings, singing him to sleep. She holds his arms and catches him as he falls. She stops singing. And then she slips her hand into his jacket, retrieving an item that she places in a small box sitting on a nearby table. She looks back at the man, shakes her head, and escapes into the night. So it's an important
Yes.
document, woman.
Yes?
Lenkill. Man is stumbling, knees bleeding, sweating, keeps pushing onward. The bow on his back, travelling through some undergrowth, comes across a deer. A dead deer, guts spilled across the forest floor. A Stelgear watches him from above, perched on the trunk of an enormous fallen tree. So we know that's like a giant cat thing. The beast jumps down at him. The Stelgar roars, swiping at him with its claws. with the man. Kills him. He jumps onto his sword or something, and then... No, not today. Not today, the man says.
Of course.
Ooh, games. I like games. We might just squeeze in a couple hours. We might play a bit more tomorrow. 3 hours. We'll see. Start to play a little bit more again. Because we've got most of the moving stuff sorted. Start to play again a little bit more. Yeah, I love games. Nice soundtrack. Stop that. I miss games. Hold on. Why do I open up? Completed Act 1. Okay, just getting to the city. Wait, we can stop there. Go play some more tomorrow. Yeah. I miss games.